Well, hello, friends. I got some really good news for you, and I've got some admonitions to you. I have to say that in the last month, I came near to death, about as near as any man would want to come. And the message I have for you today, hopefully, will be a message that can help you and help your loved ones. I've seen a lot of these different ads on YouTube that say, "Oh, eat aspirin because it'll save you from a heart attack." Well, folks, in the last, well, I'm going to say it was 4 weeks and 3 days ago, I had to have open heart surgery for a heart issue. And I want to say that it hasn't been fun. It was a bad ordeal that I went through, and I want to share my experience with you so that hopefully it can save somebody's life. And here we go. Here's my story. Well, for about the last year, I've been having, I want to say, not chest pains like they tell you to expect in a heart attack, but tightness in my chest, shortness of breath, but not a tightness like a elephant sitting on my chest or a ton of bricks. Felt more like a burning sensation. And I want to say that, well, had I taken care of things when I should have taken care of things, it wouldn't have had to go the way it went. So this is why I'm telling you this stuff. Perhaps I can save somebody else from going through what I went through. Anyway, about a year ago, maybe thereabouts anyway, I started having a lot of issues with not being able to keep up with myself, shortness of breath, having burning in my chest, and a long time ago I had to have a discectomy because I had a pinched nerve in my neck and it felt like classic heart attack. And that was in 2011. And anyhow, long story short about all that was that it left me feeling like, well, everything that felt like a heart attack could be a fake. Well, let me just tell you something, folks. You need to take this very seriously. Had I 10 months ago, well, I guess I better back up and tell you some stories. I went to my cardiologist about a year and a half ago, and I told him, hey, I'm having trouble. Went to the ER, in fact. The ER people gave me we call it echocardiogram, where they did a test on me to see what my ejection fraction was. In the end, they said I had a 55 to 60% ejection fraction. Normal for a guy my age, 66 years old. Well, then I had a stress test, where they inject the dye and they ramp you up and they get your heart going like crazy and they look at all your arteries and they decide whether or not you've got a problem. And if you have a problem, then, well, guess what? If you have a real problem, you're going to end up going in and having heart surgery or whatever it takes to fix it. Well, let me just tell you, had they realized that my problem was that I had coronary artery disease, that they could have given me stents back then. But since they didn't do the scope up the arm, they go in and they slit your arm, or they go in your groin down below and they slit your little slit in your groin and they run that scope up in there. They can take a look at your valves, they can take a look at your plaque buildup, they can see everything. Well, when I went to the hospital, it was on October the 29th, was it? Yeah, on October the 29th, I woke my wife up. Let me just say on the 28th, we went to bed, and I was chewing a 325 milligram Bayer aspirin because, by golly, I was having chest pain. And it was that same burning, tearing, it was like a tearing burn. And anyway, so long story short, went to bed. The wife says, you all right? I said, yeah, I think I'm all right. I said, I just went and chewed an aspirin, and let's see how we do. And about 3 in the morning, I woke up, and for the very first time, my symptoms had really manifested differently. And what I had was that impending doom. And I also had in my arm, it was like that same electrical burning was in there, and my fingers on both hands and back on this side of my arm, it was like I was weak. And all of a sudden my fingers were like just numb, and they were tingling and burning and shocking. And anyway, so what I'm trying to tell you is, they tell you might have something up your neck, and you could. They tell you it might hurt down your arm or in your brachial artery, and it could. And I was an EMT for 36 years. So all the classic signs And let me just tell women, first of all, the classic signs for women are not the same as they are for men. But I'm just trying to tell you guys and women and everybody out there, don't play with this. This is important. Had I gone and the doctor discovered that I had my coronary arteries, the ones that jump off your aorta and come down and supply your heart with blood, had I realized that those guys were plugging up, had the doctors realized that they could have done stents, and that would have been a lot less invasive. Now I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like once you've had this, and all my Steri-Strip stitches are not off all the way yet, but I'm going to show you what my chest looks like today, and I'll explain a little bit to you if I may. So here's what we got. So these Steri-Strips are still in place, and they open me up all the way down, and these two holes right here are where the drain hoses stuck out. I want to tell you that those drain hoses, when you wake up from this surgery, are the most excruciating and horrible thing in your life. I'm telling you. They tell you got to get out of bed and start walking on this walker. And it's not the kind of walker like you used to seeing seniors with. This is a walker for cardiac patients. And I'm going to tell you, you get in that walker and you grab onto your two handles, and you've got your elbows and your arms up. And I made it to the next room. And I've got to tell you, I'm a pretty physically fit guy. But one of the big things that got me was my job. I was a control room operator at a power plant. And for 12 years, I sat in a control room and ate what people eat, you know, when you're sitting there, and maybe even the occasional, you know, candies and snack cakes and everything else and everything you shouldn't eat. And for 12 hours a day, I sat running the computer, doing the mouse, watching the screens, taking care of that power plant and running it. And for 12 hours every day, I had a sedentary lifestyle for at least 40 hours a week. And so I'm going to tell you right now, for the other many hours that were left in the week, had I have done some kind of really productive physical activity, that wouldn't have happened. This cardiac issue would not have happened. So I want to tell you today, the best things you can do are physical fitness, keeping active, exercising daily. So my wife and I both got a couple of them. I bought a Fitbit watch, not an advertisement for Fitbit. All I'm trying to tell you is I'm trying to keep track of my steps. I'm trying to keep track of my heart rate. I'm trying to keep track of stuff because I didn't do it for so long. Now's a good time to do it. You know, now that I'm getting another chance. I have to tell you that on the 29th, my wife and I headed out at 3 in the morning, and we headed 50 miles to the nearest hospital. Truck broke down on the way. Wouldn't you know it? Called my son. Drove like a maniac. I'm not going to say how fast he went, just right at the speed limit plus. Anyway, he came and picked us up and finished taking us to the hospital. When I got there, the doctor said, oh, you know, you don't look that bad, and everything looks okay. And they did a test for, oh my gosh, what's it called again? I can't recall the name of it. Do you? No, no, it's not triglycerides. It'll come to triptans or something of that sort. Anyhow, I don't even understand all that stuff, but they can get the level of your triptan or whatever it is in your blood, and they can tell if you've had a heart attack. Well, they pulled mine and they said, no, your threshold, you're 0.5. That's not enough to count. Well, pretty soon it was up to a 1. And then they said, okay, we're going to fly you out of here. Well, the doctor had gone in first and he scoped me to see that he couldn't road a router, he couldn't put a stent in there, he couldn't do any of that. I was too plugged up. In fact, he told my wife it's a miracle I'm alive because I had one artery that had the flow of about a thread, he said, of blood going through there. But he said the good news was that my heart was not damaged yet, that he could tell. And so they decided to air-evac me down to Phoenix. Now I'm going to tell you folks another thing. My wife has congestive heart failure from an infection she got from a surgery years ago. Doctors told me the smartest thing that I could do is to buy the insurance, the flight insurance, to get somebody to the hospital. $75 a year for a helicopter ride. And we live, as a crow flies, probably 150 miles from where they flew me to. And I'm going to just tell you something, for $75 a year, that saved me $40,000 in bills for that air flight. And that 75 is for a family plan. If you're a single man and you think, well, what if I get flown? Well, let me just tell you, that's $40 a year with this Air Advantage flight service that I bought my insurance through. And I'm not advertising for them. I'm getting nothing from nobody. I get nothing from any advertiser whatsoever for this video that I'm making. I want to tell you right now, I'm doing this for you. And I'm doing this because I owe it to other people to pass on something this important that I've learned. So what I want to tell you, and I'm asking you, please, I don't care if you subscribe or not, but pass this and share this with your friends and your families and everybody else, and like it, please, for goodness sake, so I know somebody got something out of this. I want to tell you that what I went through was really tough. The doctor, when he got me down there in Phoenix, said it's a wonder I didn't die from the air evac, that I didn't code when they took me up, because where Sholo is, where they flew me out of, is like 50-something hundred feet elevation. It's pretty high, and actually, no, it's not. It's 6,800 feet, I guess. And then they get you up higher in altitude to fly over all the mountains and stuff to take you down to Phoenix. And rightfully, I should have coded, they said, but I didn't. And I got down there, and well, anyway, they prepped me and got me ready and took me into surgery. I went to, and I'm not advertising for these guys either, but I'm going to tell you, if you need somewhere, this is a really fine place. It's the Arizona Heart Institute has an outfit called Abrazo Medical Center or Heart Center or whatever on 20th Street and Thomas in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm going to tell you that Dr. Hessel was my doctor. Finest team of surgeons and people. I highly recommend them. If you have to have this, God help you if you have to have this. But if you do, they're awesome. They did great by me. They have fine nurses. They have wonderful techs and all the people there. They treated me great. And I want to say that I'm real proud of them and what they've done for me. Well, next thing I know, I'm going in, getting prepped, getting shaved in places I don't want to be shaved. All kinds of stuff's going on, and they've got my arms out on the sides of this bed, and they're starting IVs, and I had IVs going, so many IVs, I can't even tell you where. Those two tubes that hung out down at the bottom of my chest right there, those two tubes were they were big, as I recall, like my little pinky, I mean. And there was two of them. They went up behind my lungs. And the first time I had to stand up on that walker, oh, dear God, it hurt so bad. It was like somebody just ripping me apart right behind my lungs. I mean, it hurt between my lungs and my back so bad I didn't even know what was going on. Also, in addition to that, right next to those two tubes, there were one wire on each side going up to what, as I understand, was oh gosh, what is it? Elaine, what do they call that? A pacemaker. That's what it was. It was a portable pacemaker that monitored my heart, and it automatically would shock me if I needed it. Well, anyway, they knocked me out. I went to sleep. Next thing I know, I wake up. It's the next morning. I don't know, it's the next morning. It's next morning to me. And I wake up, and my wife's there with me, and my loved ones, one at a time, are allowed to come in and see me as I'm recovering. And first thing I got to do, I got to warn you about something. They're going to tell you this before they knock you out. And you got to get your head around this, because I couldn't. And I hope you can, because first thing that's going to happen when you wake up is you want that tube out of your throat. And I started panicking. I started struggling, and they weren't going to pull it out until I was fully awake. And they'll do the same to you if you have to have this. All I'm going to say is try to relax. That's what they told me to do. I couldn't do it. Try to relax, and I'm going to tell you it'll come out soon, and you'll be better. I want to tell you there's another little tool that they gave me, and Elaine, can you get me my little puffer thing? I'm going to have my wife bring me my little breathing thing that they gave me when I was in the hospital. They tell you this is your best friend. They tell you you've got to use this guy day and night and all that. And it's this little machine right here. And basically, I'm going to show it to you up close. You're supposed to be able to suck on that thing, and you're supposed to be able to do that about 10 times. And I got to tell you, the first time I could do it was about 1,400. And then finally, it was a big push. I got to 2,000. And then finally, I got up to 2,500. Now I can go to 3,500 pretty regularly. But let me tell you, if you refuse to use this machine, there's a very good chance that you could end up with pneumonia. Could be a very good chance that you won't recover very quickly out of that hospital. I want to tell you, the next day they came in and they told me, you're getting up and walking again. Dear God, I got out of that bed. And you know what? The last thing you want to do is walk. You're like, oh, leave me alone. This hurts too much, please. And let me tell you, the last thing you want to do is go for a nice little walk. And they walked me, and I've made it probably twice as far as yesterday. And it was all I could do to push myself, because I knew they weren't going to move me and help me to get out of that area, out of intensive care. And it was cardiac intensive care. And then you go to a halfway unit, and then you go to a room where they watch you for so many days. And anyway, I'm going to tell you right now that it's not a fun thing to go through the stuff I went through. If you have to go through this, I pray that God will help you through this, because that's the only way I made it. I want to tell you, I'm a man of faith. I'm a pastor of a church. I want you to know that it was all I could do to live through this. And I really didn't want to be honest with you. But I had people that I loved so very much. My wife, my children, my grandchildren, my church family. I have a great, beautiful church family that they were all praying for me. And I want to tell you, prayer is essential to getting through what I went through. Prayer will see you through it. I got to tell you, after about my fourth day in that hospital in Abrazo, I was walking the hallways and going around, they call it the block, because it's a big area with all these doors that open and close. And anyway, I made it around there, all the way around. They couldn't believe I did. And one of the nurses looked at me and says, you got to be the most healthy sick person I've got in this hospital. And I'm thanking that to God. That's what I attribute it to him. Yeah, I try to stay in good health. But let me tell you, 12 years of sedentary lifestyle, I had what I had coming. And so if you're in my boots and if you're going through what I had to go through, I pray right now that the Lord Jesus will help you through this hard and difficult time. And if you don't believe, then you know what? All you have to do is reach out and cry out to him, and he'll hear you, and he'll manifest himself to you. He'll make himself known if you'll have your heart open. And I want to tell you right now that there's no better friend in the whole wide world. You say, well, you were a desperate man. No wonder you got to reach out and cleave to Jesus. I'm going to tell you, I reached out and cleaved to Jesus before I was that desperate man, because I know who my God is. Anyway, all right, I'm not going to preach at you so much. I want to tell you right now that this Abrazo clinic is awesome. By the way, they're going to give you this little heart-shaped red pillow, and I don't have mine with me right now. When you start getting well, if you have to cough or do anything, you hold that thing up to your chest and you clutch it, trust me, because if you don't, first of all, you won't rip open these stitches right here. What'll happen is right behind here, there's some wire stitches. Let me put this a little bit closer so you can see. Hopefully the focus will come in. Anyway, there's wire stitches back there, and what they do is they take your sternum, and I don't know if you know it, it's cartilage, and they cut that baby from all the way from top to bottom, and they open you up and they go in there. I've been explained to what happens, and a lot of times I guess they put ice inside there to cool you down once they get you on the pump, the heart lung, whatever you want to call it, machine that oxygenates your blood and all that, and circulates your blood. They don't call it that, they have another name for it. Anyway, I want to say that they get you really cold so that they can do all this fine work, and they stop your heart. And this machine takes over for you. All I'm going to say to you is there's one force in the whole wide world. You could say, oh, they were lucky. And you know what? They probably were a little bit lucky. I got to tell you, I was fortunate to have a Savior who was there for me, my very best friend, and he was right there with me the whole time. And I've got to tell you, you might say, well, it's easier to die, isn't it? I think it might be. I really hate to say it, but it might be easier just to die. But you got to think of more people than just you. And that's where I'm at. Now I'm continuing to recover. No, I have not been allowed to go back and preach in the pulpit yet. My doctor won't release me. He won't release me to drive. On the 2nd of December, I'm going to be seeing the doctor again, and hopefully he'll release me. And on the 10th of December, they want me to start cardiac rehab. And I have no idea what that's like. Right now, I walk around the block, and it's about 900 and something steps. And I walk around that block, which is a pretty small block, and I burn about 1,000 calories doing it. And I do that once a day. I try to anyway. Right now, the weather hasn't been very permissive. But I've got to tell you that you can survive this. And I want to tell you that if you're having chest pain, you need to keep a bottle of Bayer aspirin, 325 milligram. I don't care what anybody tells you. You need to keep one in the car. You need to keep one in your desk at work. You need to keep one on the nightstand at home. You need to have one where you sit at your chair in your home. And on a first onset of any of this kind of pain or anything happening, you need to chew it. And it's horrible. Yeah. You chew it and take a glass of water and chase it down, because it activates it right now. It goes through your tongue subliminally. It goes down your throat. It gets in your gastric system. And let me tell you, it will dilate you and it will get you going again. And it could save your life. Remember, you have 1 hour from the time that starts to the time you either better feel better or you better be in a hospital, because that golden hour, they call it, is the hour that they can save your life. Now, I'm not going to keep harping on this, but I want everybody to know why I haven't been around. I want everybody to know that, first of all, my family and friends and loved ones, I love you very much. And you might say, well, I hope you didn't go through all this for me. I went through all this for you, and I still got something I've got to do here on this earth. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. So I just want to encourage you. If that's you and you're going through this kind of stuff, you can PM me or whatever, or email me through YouTube, and I'll get back to you, and I'll give you some words of both encouragement. And I got to tell you, at 4 weeks out, I'm not 100%. I'm not even nearly 100%. And I don't know if you'll be. And there are many people that I hear that don't look as good as I do at this point. But I think a lot of it had to do with my Lord, my surgeons, the center that took good care of me. You know, I didn't mention, and I need to mention, there's a place called Advanced Healthcare of Glendale. When they kicked me out of Abrazo, they had me go somewhere so that I could be taken care of. And that nursing facility is the finest nursing facility you could possibly go to. I have no bad things to say about them. I want to tell you, the nurses were wonderful. The people were wonderful. The administrator, I went straight to his corner office before I left. I told him, I want you to know what I think of this place. You guys are incredible. I want to tell you, they have PT and they have OT, physical therapy and occupational therapy techs that'll work with you, and they'll help you get better. But I've got to tell you, this whole thing has been a real ordeal. It's been a hardship. It's been a hard time. You can survive this. I did. Maybe I'll follow up with some more news. I don't know if I'm, when I'm getting better, tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to try to. So if you want to find out, hit subscribe and, the little bell or whatever, and you'll get a notification when I put something new on. But I want you to know that God is the only one who can get you through something this hard. And I want to tell you that there's not just a hole in the ground when it's all over with. There is a hereafter and an eternity. And the question is, where do you spend that? I know where I'm going to spend it. I also want to send a lot of thanks out to Daniel Arms, for one, Arms Homestead. I spent a lot of time watching you guys laying around on the sofa, and your friend Dutch. He's a neat guy too. I want to say I watched you guys with your hunts and all that. I want to say that Pure Living for Life, you guys are incredible. I watch you. I got to be really honest with you, Jesse. You need to get Alyssa back on there, because Alyssa really makes this thing go. And I know you don't want the baby on there for reasons that I understand with YouTube. But I'm going to tell you that Alyssa and you are a good team. It's not just about you. It's not all about flying. It's not all about what you have to say for long periods of time. But you have been there for me. And you've helped me through some of these hard times. There's been a couple others also on YouTube that I followed. And I just want to say thank you. You guys have really helped me through a hard time in my life. Just being able to watch you live your life because it's boring laying around getting better. Anyway, I hope to talk to you again real soon and let you know how things are going. And by the grace of God, I'll be well enough where I can do that. I'll talk to you guys later. You have a good one. And we'll see you soon. Peace. How's it? Good enough? Wasn't too long? Drug out and sound like